As I said, when we're talking about evangelism mission with children in an interfaith kind of context, we have to be very, very careful. Careful that we don't further exploit the child. There's an interesting passage in Acts chapter 16. And here's a young girl who has a spirit, and she's a slave, and her masters are making money off of her prophesying. And Paul comes into Philippi, and she starts following him around, shouting, "These men are messengers from God. They're telling you how to be saved," which was exactly true. It was exactly right. But Paul recognized that she was not doing this on her own. She was filled with a demon, and she was being exploited by her owners. And so, surprisingly perhaps, Paul commanded that spirit to leave her and commanded her to stop prophesying as she was doing. Now the interesting thing here is that what she was saying was true. She didn't say anything wrong, but Paul recognized that it was the wrong context and the wrong messenger for that particular message. Now the reason I linked this up with our conversation about ethics is we have to be careful that we're not further exploiting a child. We have seen instances, for example, there's lots of things on YouTube where a 6-year-old is dressed up with a tie and a suit and put a microphone in front of him, and he preaches just like an adult. Maybe there's something good to be said about that. We've already said that God does speak directly to children and young people, but I would guess that in most instances that child is somehow being exploited. It's not a legitimate role or methodology for a child to use in evangelism. Children are simple. They'll use stories. They don't get hung up on a doctrine and that sort of thing. They're not hung up on the mechanics of a miracle. They'll just praise the miracle worker. And when we dress up a 6-year-old in a suit with a microphone, it's a form of exploitation. I think the passage in Acts helps us understand this reality. My friend, Dr. Beth Barnett, who's a Pauline theologian from Australia, has written a paper where she says Jesus placed a child in the midst, not on the stage. Now she's also not saying that God can't use children, that God doesn't speak through children, and children have their space and have their role. But there are appropriate ways to do that, appropriate ways for their giftedness to be expressed, and there are inappropriate ways. There are appropriate ways for adults to encourage and affirm that giftedness or that message that God is giving them, and there are inappropriate ways. And Paul, in the example from Acts, recognized this is inappropriate. This girl is being used. And I think we Christians also need to be discerning about this. Yes, we want to affirm the gifts of young people. Yes, we want to affirm their involvement, their engagement, but we want to be careful about it, and we need to, like Samuel was, they need to be under the mentorship of adults until they've reached an age where they can speak for themselves. So the point is, from that passage, let's be careful about how we engage young people and make sure that their use of the gifts is done in an appropriate way.